Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss domestic violence and abuse, which is part of my course on forensic psychology. Although we have discussed it briefly in my lecture on violence against women, but in this lecture we'll try to get discuss it in more details and provisions made by Government of India to curb the incidences of domestic violence in India. So, according to Domestic Violence Act, which was enacted in 2006 but known as DV Act 2005, domestic violence is defined in terms of any harm or injury that endangers the health, safety, and well being of women, either mental or physical or sexual, verbal, emotional, any kind of abuse which happens in family and which harm or create injury to the woman. It also defines that the acts that endangers the person with a view to coerce or it endangers any other person related to the woman to meet the unlawful demand for dowry or other property. So, DV Act includes both the direct harm or injury to the woman as well as to those who are related with the woman, for example, child. So, harming a child to create pressure or to coerce women to meet demands of dowry, other property assets, valuable security, it comes under domestic violence. Although there are many forms of domestic violence, which we have already discussed, it is the most prevalent form of violence against women. Domestic violence is most prevalent form of violence against women. However, it is relatively hidden and ignored because it happens in the four walls of the household, and that is why majority of the time it is not known, it doesn't come out, and if even if it comes out, it is ignored by the society. Although we don't have reliable statistics on this due to the nature of the violence, it is estimated that around every country have the prevalence of domestic violence between 20 to 50% of the women, and they have experienced physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence with the hand of an intimate partner and in few cases by the family members. Violence of such kind is usually perpetrated by males who are or who have been in position of trust, intimacy and power. So these kind of men include husbands, boyfriends, father, father-in-law, stepfather, brother, uncle, son or other relatives. However, in majority of the cases, husband or past husbands are the most common perpetrators. The factor which make it difficult to deal domestic violence is that in most of the cases the victim either refuse to name the perpetrator or refuse the incidence of violence or attribute the injury to other reason. So either they don't name who have caused this violence, they try to hide their problems, injuries, or if even if it is obvious and overt, they attribute the injury to other reason rather than the incidence of violence. In fact, many of the victims also justify this wife beating. For example, a study in 2007 by Harihar et al., which was conducted on 90,000, around 90,000 even married women, they discussed that about 21% of the women accept this form of violence, and about 57% of the women have at least one reason to justify husband beating his wife. So that is an important fact to consider why this form of violence is most prevalent among families, yet less studied or less talked about. If we talk about the forms of spousal violence or domestic violence, it can be crudely divided into three categories: physical violence, which involves physical aggression, acts of physical aggression such as slapping, hitting, kicking, and beating; sexual abuse, which includes forced intercourses and other forms of sexual coercion without the will of the woman; and third is psychological abuse, which includes any act which intimidate, humiliate, or try to control the woman. These may include isolating the woman from family, friends, monitoring their movement, or restricting their access to information, assistance, finance, etc. So all these are part of psychological abuse. When this type of violence repeatedly occur in the same relationship, it doesn't remain simple domestic violence, rather it reduces into the act of battering and lead to a cluster of syndrome which we call battered woman syndrome. We'll be talking about this form in another lecture. Hedge and al. Conducted a study in 1994 and tried to identify those factors which helps in maintenance of such violences in family. Although they found no single factor to account for this type of violence, they have found the interrelatedness of various factors which are responsible for prevalence of this violence. We can classify these factors into four categories: cultural, political, economic, and legal. And under each of them, there are various reasons for the maintenance of this violence into the family. So, cultural factors which encourage such type of violence are gender specific socialization. We know that in our society, we socialize men and women to behave differently. We teach our sons to be the powerful person, to be the owner of the household, and we teach our daughters to obey what a man says. We give them different role models. We encourage boy to behave like fathers and girls to behave like mothers, and thus we inculcate these gender role differentiation in our uh, next generation. In the same way, we have different definitions for appropriate sex roles. So male have to behave differently and female have to differently, and then there are expectations that are attached to these roles. So since woman role is different, they are expected to behave in a certain way in a relationship, and men are expected to behave in a other way in the relationship. Majority of the cultural beliefs have inherent superiority of males. So, in most of the culture, it is believed that men is superior to women, and this superiority create power distance, and which may result into the battering or violence activity against women. Our cultural values give men priority over women and girls. The notion of family, the definition of family that is prevalent in our culture and majority of the culture is that the family is a private sphere. Whatever happens within the family should not be discussed outside of the family, and also that the family matters are under male control. So the decision to be taken in the family, the function of the family, and power dominance in the family is in favor of the male, which is one among the reason for such kind of violence. Customs of marriage in most of the society treat women as an object. So bride, price, dowry, and all, they limit the woman's identity to a property of man. And most of the culture, violence is acceptable as a mean to resolve conflict. So in majority of the cultures, it is believed that some sort of some minor forms of violence are necessary to resolve conflict in relationships, to maintain family as a unit, and this enhances the incidences of violence. In addition to the cultural factors, there are several political factors prevalent in a society which may lead to increased cases of domestic violence. The first is underrepresentation of women in all units of political structure, including power, politics, media, legal, and medical professions. So, in all these pillars of a society, women are less represented or underrepresented. So if we consider the proportion of women in the population and proportion of women in these positions, we found that women are underrepresented and thus their voices are also underrepresented. In all these majority of the countries, domestic violence is not taken seriously. Usually it is considered matter within the family, and thus the socio-political situation encourages or at least ignores the violence, this type of violence. Like our cultural beliefs, political beliefs also enhances or encourage the family matters being private and beyond control of the state. So before the Domestic Violence Act of 2005, it used to be believed that the government cannot interfere into the family matters, which uh, m- which made it even more difficult to address such type of violence. There is also risk of challenges to status quo or religious law. So, if the state make law in favor of women, it is usually in contradiction to the what is believed in our religion. So, for example, the recent developmental or changes by the government in Muslim law or Muslim related practices, there was huge opposition and representation against all these laws because they were viewed against the religion. So that is one another reason due to which the governments or political organization of the society doesn't want to address such issues. Women are less organized as a political force, so they are usually not able to change or represent, influence the legal system, and they are less organized as well as they are less participant. So if we see the participation of women in political system, it is less, underrepresented in both, in terms of fighting the election, in terms of their participation in voting process. And even though in India the positions are reserved for women, political positions are reserved for women in lower level political organizations such as Gram Panchayat and all, we found that women take the position but act as rubber stamp, and the power remains in the hand of their husbands. So that is again a reason why issues of women don't take priority into the socio-political system. There are some economic factors which may be reason for the domestic violence, such as women's and majority of the women is economically dependent on men, and thus men consider and use it as a power over women. Women have limited access to health, cash and credit, so they are dependent on men for all these things. There are discriminatory laws regarding inheritance, property right and use of communal lands. So the men of the family is considered to be inheritance of the property, family property. Although women have been given equal power in Indian constitution and they have given their equal share for their in their family property, it is usually within the law books and not practiced in reality. The maintenance after divorce or widowhood is very difficult. A woman after getting divorced or after being widow, it is very hard for them to live a peaceful life in the society, in the present social structure, and that is why women want to avoid such status. Limited access to employment in formal and informal sectors and limited access to education and training make women condition even worse, cause it drastically impacts their economic independence and make them dependent on men who consider it as power, their power against women. Finally, there are legal factors which contributes to the increased rate of domestic violence. Lesser legal status of women in the legal system. There are flaws against in laws regarding divorce, child custody, maintenance and inheritance. Legal definitions of rape and domestic abuse used to be in favor of men. Low levels of legal literacy inhibits women's knowledge, understanding, initiation and representation of their matters into the legal system of India. So since they are not aware about their legal rights, legal procedures, and they don't have much support when they go against their family, it becomes very difficult for them to initiate legal action and to advocate in favor of advocate in their own favor. And also insensitive treatment of women and girls by police and judiciary, especially when there is no support from the men of their family, is one of the reason why they don't come out and speak against their violence. Uh, when we talk about the incidences of domestic violence in India, the situation is not good. The National Crime Report Record Bureau report of 1991 revealed that in every 33 minutes, an Indian woman is being abused by her husband. It also noted that in 1989, in every 125th minute, this means around 2 hours, every 2 hours, there is one dowry death. The landmark research in this area was National Family Health Survey 3, Stage 3, which was carried out in 29 states during the year 2005 and 6. It found that a substantial proportion of married women have reported being physically or sexually abused by their husbands. If not more, definitely one or sometime in their lives. This survey indicated that nationwide 37.2% of women experience violence after marriage. Among these 29 states, Bihar was found to be most violent, which has cases around 59% of the domestic violence cases, followed by MP, Rajasthan, Manipur, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and then West Bengal. The NCRB data of 2011 report an increase of 40% in the case of social harassment and 15.2% in case of dowry death against its report in 1991. It also revealed the 2011 NCRB data also revealed different statistics of domestic violence which were found in the National Family Health Survey Stage 3 data, and it found that beating Bihar, West Bengal topped the ranking in domestic violence, followed by Andhra Pradesh and Rajasthan. So, against the what was found in 2005 and 6, Bihar cases of domestic violence reduced, but it increased and in top in West Bengal, followed by Andhra Pradesh and Rajasthan. NCRB 2011 data further highlights that the share of cognizable crime in domestic violence grown drastically. In 2007, it was 3.8%, but it rose to 4.3% in 2011. The fourth stage of National Family Health Survey, which was carried out in 2015 and 16, again shed light on the prevalence of domestic violence. Now, one interesting thing is that the National Family Health Survey Phase 3 data was before the Domestic Violence Act was initiated. In fact, after the National Family Health Survey Stage 3 data, the Domestic Violence Act was initiated, and then it was expected that the rate of such incidents will go down, and thus the National Family Health Survey Stage 4 conducted in 2015 and 16 was important. However, we found almost no difference when it comes to the experience of domestic violence, even after the Domestic Violence Act. This survey shows that 30% of the women reported physical violence after marriage, 6% experienced sexual violence, and 4% women experienced physical violence during pregnancy. 33% of the women experienced physical, sexual, or emotional domestic violence, spousal violence, which means violence committed by their husbands. And the most common type of spousal violence is physical violence, 30%, followed by emotional violence, 14%, and then by psychological violence. Women also experience some relief. The violence by husband was slightly less in stage 4, that is 31%, than what was in stage 3, that is 37%. That was 37%. So there is slight decrease in the incidences of violence by husband in these 10 years. However, there was no change in the incidences of physical or sexual violence within last 12 months at the time of survey. So it was 24% in family health survey stage 3 and it remained 24% in family health survey stage 4. About one-fourth of the women who experienced violence by husband reported physical injuries, which included 8% who had eye injuries, sprains, dislocation, and burns, and 5% who have deep wounds, broken bones, broken teeth, or any other serious injuries. The important factor is that only 14% of the women who experienced violence, either physical or sexual, by their husband or anyone, they sought help, which was less than what was found in National Family Health Survey stage 3. During 2005 and 6 survey, it was found that 24% women sought help. In these 10 years, this reduced to 14%. So this figure is a clear indication that after the Domestic Violence Act, the reporting of crime decreased. Reasons are unknown, but it can easily be guessed. The following figure shows the experience of women violence by their marital status. And if we see the first figure, which is showing the incidences of physical violence, we can see that never married women have less physical violence. Never married women, which means experience of violence in their own home, maybe by parents, father or brothers. The same is the case of married but women who are still at their home, their gona is not done and they have not gone to their in-laws place. But the cases increase to 33 and 43% when the woman is married and living with husband or divorced, separated, deserted or widowed. So the condition of physical violence is more in case of women who are married and living with family, or married, used to live with family but now separated or divorced or widow. Similar trend is found low, though less in number as compared to physical violence in case of sexual violence as well. We found that the rate of incidence are least in case of unmarried or married but not gonna women, but it increases when they start living with their husbands, and it further increases when they are separated or divorced. The next figure shows the incidences of spousal violence by husband alcohol consumption. It is usually attributed that family violence is caused by alcohol consumption, or alcohol is considered one of the most quoted reason for family violence. It is found that although alcohol consumption is linked with higher percentage of violence against women, it does not mean that people who don't drink will not engage in violence. So it is found that even when husband does not drink, the violence rate is 22%. Husband drinks but not get drunk, 34%. Sometime drinking, 49%, and often drunk, 71%. So alcohol is one of the reason but not the only reason for spousal violence. The next figure speaks about the experience of various forms of violence. We found that the combination of physical and sexual violence both is highest, 29%, physical only 12%, and sexual only 10%. So it is most likely that when violence occurs, it occurs in combination of physical as well as sexual violence. The next figure shows the rate of violence, the time of the occurrence of violence. We see that within 1 year of marriage, the incidence of violence is less, which gradually increase within 1 to 2 years. But then there is a steep rise in the cases of violence within 2 to 5 years. And it is found that 87% of the violence initiated within 5 years of marriage, and the data remain almost same unchanged after this. So this figure is very important and indicate that if there is a chances of woman being the victim of domestic violence, or in other way husband, the chances of husband being the perpetrator of domestic violence is within first 5 years of marriage, which is a crucial period for a marital relationship. Now let us talk about some of the provisions that are made by the government of India, some of the laws that are made in favor of women to protect their experience of violence. The first is Dowry Prohibition Act, which prohibit exchange of any direct or indirect property or valuable in form of dowry before, during or after marriage. Section 304B considers that if a woman death occurs within 7 years of her marriage, it may be challenged in court. The reason might be violence. Section 498A states that when husband or his family subject women to cruelty, intentional behavior, cruelty is here is defined in terms of intentional behavior that causes serious injury or harassment for dowry, it is punishable under law. Section 376 is rape law, which protect women in general against sexual crimes. Section 294 protect women against options, acts and songs, and Section 354 protect women against threat to their modesty. So all these and many other legal provisions are there to protect women against violence. However, after the results of the National Family Health Survey Phase 3 in 2005, it was felt that a strong law is required to protect domestic violence against women, and thus the PWDVA, popularly known as DV Act, Domestic Violence Act 2005, the full name of this act is Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act, was initiated. It was passed in 2006. It is a right-based civil law which advocates the right of women to live with dignity. It was the first law in India to define domestic violence in a comprehensive way. So before that, the definition of domestic violence was not clear in India. It gave women a legal right to live a life free of violence and made government accountable to stop the domestic violence. So before this law, the domestic violence was considered a family matter, but this law gave the government right to interfere into the family matter when it is believed that a woman might be or being subject to domestic violence. It also gave right to the government to give emergency orders to stop domestic violence. This law also gives right to other persons who believe that an act of domestic violence has been or is being committed in a particular family. The person may give information about it to legal officers, and the person will be exempted from any liability, either civil or criminal. So this provision makes this act socially embedded. So now it is the responsibility of the entire society to protect the woman from domestic violence. This law is considered by Supreme Court important in a way that it is available, the right and the clause considered under this is available to help a woman for cases which were committed prior to the commencement of this act. So this means even though this act was passed in on 26th October 2006, the violent activities that were committed before this act to come in force would be considered under this. In Bhanot versus V.D. Bhanot versus Savita Bhanot case in 2010, which was decided on 2007, Supreme Court considered this issue of timing of reporting of crime, and after considering the constitutional provisions under Article 21 of the Constitution and also Section 31 and 33 of the Persons uh, Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act of 2005, and after examining the statements of objects and reasons for the enactment of this act, the Supreme Court was with the view that protection of right of women under Article 14, 15 and 21 is their constitutional right, and thus the act enacted by the Parliament 2005 is in order, is valid to provide effective protection of right guaranteed under the Constitution to women who are victim of any kind of violence occurring within family. So the Supreme Court considers this act as an efficient and expeditious civil remedy to women, and therefore it holds that the rights given to women under this act is available to them even prior to the enactment of this act in 2006. So this is one of the rare act which enables women to report violent activities that were done before this act or this law was in force. However, did this law gain some benefit, resulted in some change? We already know the 2015-16 National Family Health Survey Stage 4 data, and we have an idea that it didn't do any change. The increase in case of domestic violence was even after the enactment of this DV Act of 2005. The NCRB data provides a total number of 7,000, 11,000 and 9,000 cases in the year 2009, 10 and 11 respectively, which is after the enactment of Domestic Violence Act 2005. So from the table below we can see that in 2009 the cases registered were about 7,800. Charge sheet was less than 20%, 1641. Conviction was even less than 3%, 263. Person arrested was less than 10% of the total case registered. Persons convicted was 9 against the case registered 7,803. The situation was not better in 2010. Conviction was 5 against the total registered cases of 11,700, and the same happened in 2011. So even after the enactment of this powerful act, the status of women remains the same in India. So this was all about domestic violence. If you have any question, concerns, kindly contact me on my private communication channels. Thank you. Jai Hind.